Obama administration officials now contradicting their own colleagues. Investigative reporter Sharyl Attkisson digging into the discrepancies between a former National Security Council official and a former CIA official. Sharyl joins us with more on what she's uncovered. Sharyl, first of all, we had Tommy Vietor, the one who made the infamous dude remark to Bret Baier the other night, and we have Mike Morrell, who testified before Congress last month. Did they contradict each other?
It would seem so. We don't know what's behind it, but whenever, as a journalist, you see these sort of contradictions or things that seem unexplained, it makes you look for more there. Tommy Vietor, in his interview with Bret last week, indicated that he did change some substantive parts of the talking points. He acknowledged that in the interview. But if you look back to what Jay Carney had said for over a year, as well as to what the former deputy director of the CIA, Mike Morrell, testified to in sworn testimony before Congress last month, they both were very explicit and insisted repeatedly that the only change the White House made was not substantive. It was changing the word consulate to diplomatic post. They didn't mention anything about the changes that Tommy Vietor, who worked in the White House, made, and that would seem to fly in the face of the insistences they have made since September 11th, 2012.
All right, what did Tommy Vietor change, and why is it significant?
According to his interview that he did with Fox last week, he introduced an additional thought about social media warnings of demonstrations. In other words, it appears as though he was helping steer the public narrative from the White House toward this idea that there was a protest that was to blame rather than a pre-planned terrorist event. That's significant because part of the questions in the weeks following the attacks, part of the questions were whether this was intentional or not, whether there had been some misunderstanding on this. So Tommy Vietor, if he's correct in what he said in his interview last week, totally contradicted what Jay Carney told reporters over and over again, that there was only that one single change, non-substantive, very specific about it, and then it totally contradicted, at least it appears to me, what Mike Morrell told Congress both in writing and in his oral testimony last month.
Why does it matter? I mean, there are going to be some, times our memories are a little bit fuzzy over time, or it doesn't even have to be more than an hour. We can get confused about what we did even an hour ago. But why is an inconsistency of any significance or moment?
There have been so many inconsistencies. We don't know why these exist because we don't have all the answers, but these are simply reasons to keep digging. For example, Mike Morrell was called to testify last month because of contradictions in what he had previously told Congress and documentation that came out subsequently. Originally, when he was asked who changed the talking points, because that was the big question in the early weeks, he remained silent, according to Senator Graham and others that he briefed about it, and in fact eventually blamed the FBI and then sort of later the same day had to take that back. Now, all this time later, he testified, oh, yes, I, in fact, spearheaded all the changes. I made all the changes. Why wasn't that story offered up immediately closer to the event? Surely he knew that. We don't know why.
You know what I think is really peculiar is that even today at the White House briefing, Press Secretary Jay Carney acts like, there have been so many hearings, it's beating a dead horse, it's, we've given everything. Yet, if that were true, why would a month ago we learn something new from Mike Morrell when he testifies before a hearing? That's the last time we heard from him. And why a week ago are there new emails surfacing pursuant to a court order? You would think that, things are coming out. And so I don't know how they can, keep hammering saying that, this is all old.
It's very typical. This administration measures its supposed transparency by the number of hearings it attends and the numbers of pages that it turns over to Congress, which are usually voluminous, yet often highly redacted and not particularly informative. So those are two separate issues. They do give a lot of material. They are called for a lot of hearings, but are they really answering the questions? And often the answer is no.
Well, there's going to be a hearing, so select committee, as you know, so maybe things will change. We'll get all the